Welcome everybody for our January 19th LGBTQIA Commission meeting. We are just cruising through January, spending our Thursdays together. So glad to see everybody again tonight. I'm going to kick it off by asking Billy to do a roll call.
All right, so we're still waiting for Kathy Boyle. We're waiting for Nakia. Denise is here. Jam Hammond is here. Billy Heilman is here. Sue Kerr is here. Bruce Krause is here. Lenny Orbovich is here. Richard has already notified us he would not. Richard Parsakian has notified us he will not be here tonight. We're waiting for Shantae Porter. Christopher Robinson. We're waiting for Christopher.
Christopher's here now.
Oh, there he is.
I'm here. Good evening.
Hi. I'm glad you're there. Marcus is here. Sarah Rosso is here. We're waiting for Derek Tynes, and Guillermo Velasquez is here. We have quorum.
Very good. Well, first up, we want to make sure that we are taking some time to read and go through our minutes and approve our minutes from our last meeting in December.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. If there's a second, we can discuss any needed changes.
Second.
Thanks, Lenny. Any changes? Any discussion necessary? All right. Do we have anybody who wants to go ahead and get us to approval of minutes?
Yeah, you can go ahead and ask for a vote.
Yeah, do we have a vote to approve minutes?
Yeah. Yes,
All
all
right,
in favor. Yeah.
All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, thanks, y'all. So minutes approved. Next up, we're going to go through our reports of officers, boards, and standing committees. First up, we want to go through the co-chairs report. So the three of us will make sure that we highlight the items that you see here. So I'll get started. We were able to introduce our commission to the mayor's office. So we were able to work with the mayor, meet Morgan. So Morgan, really nice to see you at our meeting tonight. It's nice to be connected to you. Personally, I just want to say and take a moment to say I'm so glad you're here. I'm so excited to have some staff support finally to be able to keep things moving. And so I want to make sure that we take a little bit of time to welcome you, to say hello, to allow you to introduce yourselves to everybody on the commission tonight. So I'm going to pause there and let you say a few words here.
Thank you, Sarah. Hi, everyone. Apologies in advance if Nala starts barking, acting like she's part of the meeting too. But if I didn't get a chance to meet you, my name is Morgan Overton. My pronouns are she and her, and I am serving as the IDEA manager in the mayor's office. And that just stands for Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Access. And I'm happy to be staffing your commission. I'm also a member of the Gender Equity Commission. And as mentioned last week, there's just so much overlap and parallel with our respective goals. And I think that the mayor is really excited to ensure that you all are heard in this process as we develop this next chapter of Pittsburgh. I know last week it was mentioned that you all wanted to have some time with me as a commission. I know you all have various meetings as a commission itself, and thanks to Sue for the suggestion for a doodle poll to try to get 3 separate meetings to work with a group of you, because it's understood that we can't get everybody at once. It's like a Herculean task because you're all so busy. So just be on the lookout for a doodle poll from me come Monday, and we can just go from there to get something on the books so we can get a working process in order. I'll pop I don't know if there's a chat on here, but you all should have access to my email. If you have any questions, please let me know, but I'm excited to get started. Thank you.
Thank you, Morgan, and welcome. We're glad that you're here. So next up, we want to talk a little bit about our meeting with City Council. If it's okay, I want to turn it over to Sue and Councilman Kraus to talk a little bit more about this particular item.
Chewing noises, I'm sorry.
I'll start talking, Bruce, until you. So we spoke at our last meeting about fulfilling our obligation to work with City Council. And one thing we wanted to do was to hold what's called a post-agenda meeting. And that will be really a chance for us to present to council what we've accomplished. We'll have a specific agenda set out, and for the members of council to ask us questions and engage with us. It's a public meeting, but there is no public commentary during the meeting. And Bruce's staff got us started in the planning process. He took care of the council legislative ease sort of piece of it. And I sent out a doodle poll to everyone asking you to identify what your availability was. Basically, we're looking at a Tuesday or Wednesday in February, 1 and 2 o'clock. So if you have not completed that poll, please do so, because we're going to close it tomorrow and we're going to pick a date so we don't lose the opportunity. But Bruce, are you ready to chat a minute? Okay.
I am ready. I'm ready to chat. Just to sort of follow up on what Sue said, the motion's been made to hold the post agenda before City Council and approved. We're really just waiting on a date to put it on the calendar. I'll work with the council president to schedule and the clerk's office. I just found out today that I am having shoulder surgery, yay, on February 7th. Which is a Tuesday. So that is the only Tuesday I ask you please not to choose in February, but beyond that we'll be fine. Not to alarm anyone. It's an outpatient procedure, but it is still surgery. And I've tore a rotator cuff and I just have to deal with it. So I found out today that I'm going to be doing that on February 7th. But beyond that, I would love nothing more than us to actually be able to appear in person. I know how difficult that can be. It would be wonderful to if we could do it live in City Council at the table, have bodies assembled. That's a big ask these days, and I understand how difficult that can be. But if we can do that, I just think it would go a long way. Just for what that's worth. But I'll follow your lead. However you wish to ultimately choose to do it is how we will do it. And then, soon I've kind of talked a little bit further about making this more of a, not a monthly thing by any means, but maybe twice a year, make certain that we, come together, report out before City Council, what things are going on, what we're hearing, the things that we may need to do legislatively or in terms of city policy, those kinds of things. So I'm happy to help to orchestrate that when and as necessary and however you choose to do so.
Thank you.
No,
Jam.
Um,
Go ahead, Sue.
no, if Jan wanted to talk, that's fine. I can wait.
Oh, no, I just had a brief question, which is, so post agendas oftentimes are an opportunity for the public to also hear what's going on. So at first, I guess that's kind of a question. Am I right about that? But it's different than a public hearing. And then my other part of my question is, are we going to do any sort of like promotion around it so that people can know to come and listen and check out what we're up to?
So the first question, Jam, I will answer. I've already forgotten. So there. Welcome to being 68 years old. It went completely out of my head. Second, the second question in terms of advocating attendance, I don't know of any time we've ever done that in the past. We are obligated by code to announce, if you will, publish our meetings. So the meeting schedule is public for people to be aware of what's taking place. It's been a very long time since people have physically, members of the public have physically attended a a meeting that was not legislative in nature. So I would not expect, but now that the first questions come around to me, they are televised, much like this meeting here is. And so it is a really good opportunity to get the message out to the public at large, who we are, what we do, what we're hearing out there, changes that may need to be made, like I said, either legislatively or through policy or those kinds of things. But they are public, but they are not. They do not require quorum, and they do not require attendance, because under code there's no action being taken. There's not a vote of any kind. They are strictly informational in nature, and so oftentimes members will choose to watch from their offices, or if they have other meetings, they will most likely tune in later that evening when things are rebroadcast, or watch it on a YouTube or something along those lines. But informative in nature, attendance is not required, no action is taken. There is no public comment taken at a post agenda either, but they are recorded and stored as a matter of our public record. Hope that helps.
Thank you.
Sure.
I did want to mention that when I was coordinating this with Bob, Bruce's chief of staff, he told me that it could be a hybrid meeting, and that he strongly urged us to select a 1 o'clock time slot that will get perhaps better attendance. And the third thing was that we should each contact our members of council specifically to encourage them to attend, in addition to a general invitation from all of us.
That is such a great idea. It would be so very helpful if each of you city residents contact your members of council and encourage attendance. That would be very, very helpful.
So please respond to the poll, and we'll close it tomorrow. We'll have a date for you and move on to our next doodle poll.
Thanks, Sue. Thanks, Bruce.
Yep.
So next up on our agenda is that we wanted to start a conversation and propose creating a working group on city human services. One of the things that keeps happening is that we get a number of requests coming in for referrals or for action to be taken. And it feels like it may be worth discussing and potentially creating a group so that we might be better able to respond. So I know that this was something also that Sue wanted to make sure that we were addressing. So I just want to give an opportunity to jump in here and add more to that, but we're looking to talk through that city human services opportunity.
I would just like to add that in addition to resources and referrals, we have to have a conversation about how we store these requests. They are public in some sense, but there's also a lot of private detail people share with us, and because they don't necessarily know that they're sharing their details with a public entity. But also, what do we do with them once we've, so to speak, address them? I don't think we need to talk about that right now, but I do think we need to have that conversation, as well as looking at referrals from in the city. You know, sometimes people are bounced around from office to office. Maybe they don't know about the Office of Community Health, I think Health and Safety, I think that's what it's called, which is somewhat new. So, you know, I'm really concerned about these requests just kind of hanging in the email. It's not secure. I don't like that, but we can't delete them. So I hope that this would be one method for us to address that.
I'm kind of embarrassed to ask this question, but I honestly don't know. Are commissions assigned a city email, or you're operating on personal emails?
We don't have city
Anybody know?
emails. We operate on our own personal emails. We have a Google group.
Yeah, okay, so everything, I'm just trying to understand the legalities and the logistics of everything. None of the communications are being done on city emails. No commission has ever assigned a city email in order to conduct their business, which is really kind of bizarre now that I think about it, but I just wanted to be certain.
Well, we
Some,
don't know
com-
that no commission, we know that we don't.
some commissions do have formal email and some do not. We looked at this when we started, and we created a Gmail for the commission. And it was kind of all over the board in terms of how each commission addressed it. And we decided that Gmail would be the most effective for us.
Yeah,
I
the only,
think sorry.
I'm sorry, the only reason I ask about a city email is that it would then become matter of public record and subject to right to know and all of those different things. And if there were concerns and issues around privacy, of course, that would certainly want to be taken into consideration when one is doing communication digitally. So I'm just thinking out loud. I may have to ask that question of the law department.
Well, that's exactly the kind of question that we wanted to boot to a working group, because other city bodies, other commissions get this kind of inquiry too. So some of this is coming actually through the city website and some is a direct message. So there's a lot to parse, and if anyone's interested in participating in that sort of a working group or a conversation, I think I had talked to Kathy and Shantae about it before the end of the year, but I don't want to speak for them. I just know that they have experience with this sort of issue.
Yeah, I'm happy to work on a working group about that.
Are you happy to chair a working group?
No.
That was emphatic.
I'm old enough to know better.
Well, I move that we establish a working group and allow the working group to define leadership and report back to us about what their structure will be. Do some planning. Billy hates that move, what I just moved, I guess.
Well, if I don't hate it if you allow me to edit it.
You can edit as much as you want.
Yeah, would you be okay with that you make a motion to establish a commission working group on city human services issues?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I move that.
All right.
I'll
second.
Was that Jam?
I was just gonna say, thanks for the second, Jam.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So at this point, Billy, help me along here. It's been a minute since I've chaired, but at this point, we want to make sure that we're leaving space for questions and discussion. Anybody have anything they want to contribute to the conversation, ask, clarify before we move to vote?
I would just mention that, Bruce Krause's comment about taking the issue of emails, the public versus confidential issue of emails, whether we're using city or personal email, Gmails, et cetera, that I encourage Bruce to do that, but he might want to wait until this working group meets once or twice, because there may be other items that we might need law department help on. So why don't
Yeah, so let me jump in there because I'm going to complicate matters even further. The times that we go to a law for legal opinion, they always argue the city is the client, and they can be temperamental about how they will engage and not engage. Now, I can't imagine being a city commissioned commission would not cover discussion with law, but I just want to make certain before we do. So just so I'm gonna just put a call into the solicitor and just in a sort of a generic way, ask her if she can help me to better understand the operations of commissions as a whole in terms of digital communication, city emails, right to know, those kinds of things, and what the things we should be aware of, and then I'll share. Is that okay?
that's fine. If they can't help, then the commission's going to request that it has its own solicitor. I think that'd be a great idea. If
Well, yeah, so don't quote anything I just said, because I'm
No.
just thinking out loud, which I often do. Those are questions that are coming into my mind that I would like to have better answers before I advise you. Okay, on that, but let me just see what I come up with and bring it back.
Great, thanks, Bruce.
This is a perfect time to remind folks that we also now have a dedicated staff member for our commission. So Bruce, if you need an assistance there in reaching out to the solicitor's office, don't hesitate to utilize Morgan to help with some of that stuff.
Yeah, great idea. Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, Maria. Sue, I see your hand up.
Yes, I just wanted to mention, Marcus and I had been talking with the solicitor's office about the whole Facebook piece. And so I think we could get those names together, and they were very receptive and helpful to us and understanding that we needed layman's clarification. So, and I hope, Morgan, that you would be willing to participate in this, however your schedule allows and it fits with your workload.
Yeah, absolutely. If I can make things more easier for you all as an actual city employee, so you don't have to worry about coordinating time to establish working groups, I can just send one email away to the powers that be to find out answers for you all.
Thanks, Morgan. Jam.
My question was more logistical regarding the working group. Should we define a scope here in this meeting, or should the working group be tasked to define the scope?
My response would be that we should let the working group do that, because it's going to depend on who's available, what time they can commit to it. We can't do everything that should fall under this. I mean, that's realistic. So if individuals are invested in it enough to participate, I think that we should hear what they have to say about how the scope should move, drive the work, but instead of imposing it on the working group.
Thank you, Sue.
Billy.
And Sue, are there other people who have volunteered for this committee?
No. Shantae hasn't responded to me, but I did encourage her. She's at work now, so she's not able to be here tonight. I'm going to ask her. Hopefully she would be, interested in doing it. And I'd hoped maybe Chris might, if he has the time, just because that's in his line of expertise. I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but I have people in mind, and I'm going to go around and talk to them once we authorize this plan. Otherwise, Kathy, you and I will be hanging out a lot. So,
All righty.
I'm also
Sue,
happy.
I'll help you.
And
I don't know who that was.
I'm willing to help out where I can as well. So I appreciate that.
That was Denise and Chris, Sue.
I'm also happy to help. I don't know if you envision it as something that is not with people who are employed by the city or anything specific, though.
Well, my vision was strictly that this would be the commission making some of these decisions. How are we going to manage this information? How are we going to communicate around? And human services is just a broad concept. So I wouldn't necessarily propose going outside of the commission until we just have some core answers. And I guess we could, really, I think we should just meet to have a broader conversation about this and suss all this out rather than doing it here. So we can set up a meeting, and whoever can be there if that works. Maybe Bruce, Joyce maybe could help us too. It's I don't want to get into that too much. So I'm going to go back to my motion and just say, I'll be happy to answer any other questions. I don't want to steer it. I just wanted to get some of this addressed because I'm very concerned about this information that's just sitting out there.
Thanks, Sue. I see Billy has his hand up. Billy.
Yeah, I wanted to add in, I think the motion is appropriately broad because I think the working group, once it's formed, needs to figure out exactly what the scope is. But at that point, in order to really take actions. So I think the working group would report back to the full commission, and their report would then be adopted by us for them to do specific work. So I think that the plan that Sue has articulated is appropriate, and we can't define it any more narrowly now, but certainly some items as examples, emails of requests for assistance from our commission need to be addressed. That's the one example, but that's not what the whole thing would be.
Thanks, Billy. Any other points of discussion or questions or clarification necessary at this time? Well, hearing none. So we have the motion to create the working group. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
Thanks, everyone. So we'll create that. Sue, we'll follow up with folks who have expressed some interest, and we'll try to get a meeting scheduled as soon as possible. Okay, so next up is to report out on our meeting with the mayor, with Morgan, with many of the senior leadership staff in the mayor's office. And so there were a number of folks who are here today that were able to participate in that meeting. I was able to be there virtually. So I'll ask Marcus, if you don't mind, to give a little bit of an update on that, as well as Billy and anybody else who was there who wants to share and report out on our meeting with Mayor Gainey.
Sure, yeah. So, and Billy, correct me if I get any stuff wrong, but in terms of the meeting, I thought it went really well. I think it was a good opportunity to meet a lot of the different staff, as well as get to know kind of the mayor's vision for this group. And I think generally the mayor's office new approach to commissions. So I'm excited to kind of see how that will work out. I thought it was also a pretty good dialogue. I think there was a lot of, it's hard to work through the full agenda, but I think we had a good conversation and identified some good next steps, especially working with Morgan more. I think the only thing, just trying to think, one of the things of note was just we didn't get a firm committal in terms of the renewal of some commissioner terms. So we'll be on the lookout for some additional information or updates there, just because I think that and the vacant seats, given how they've had this new database, and Morgan, let me know, feel free to add anything there, but in terms of the new database that they're going to be using to collect different potential commissioners and match them to different commissions, that'll be, I think, something we'll want to just keep an eye on and be aware of how that process is working. Trying to think any other things. Those are kind of the main highlights that I come to mind now. If anyone else wants to jump in or add anything that they thought was important and noteworthy that we discussed.
Marcus, the only thing I would add to add a little more detail to what you highlighted in terms of the mayor's and team's approach to commissions is just really thinking about how we work with other folks and entities in community doing the work, right? So thinking about how our commission can show up in service of being a bridge or a connector or an advisor, and then think about how we're collaborating with others. Certainly Maria and Morgan are here, so we don't want to mistranslate that vision, but I think it's important for our commission team to understand sort of what that approach might look like as we start to build that relationship with Morgan and think about how we can show up. So Maria.
Thanks, Sarah. No, I think you did a really excellent job of framing that portion of the conversation. And broadly speaking, like, our vision of this work is that it's not the job of one commissioner or one individual, but it really is the job of all 30,300 plus members of city government, and really rethinking how we ensure that every department in our city is a safe place for the LGBT community, a welcome place for the LGBTQIA community, and a place where every member of our community has an opportunity to thrive, either through employment opportunities or just better outcomes for their lived experience here in the city of Pittsburgh. So there's a lot of great work that we can do as a city to drive an agenda like that forward. And I'm really looking forward to digging in with you all to help with that.
Thanks, Maria. Morgan, I see your hand up too.
Yeah, how dare I go right after Maria, who just so eloquently put all my thoughts together. But yeah, y'all aren't alone. You don't have to exist in a silo, right? Use us who are already a resource in city government, who our whole function is to actualize equity and justice on an everyday basis. And to Marcus's point about new commissioners, just one clarifying question about how many open seats there are on this commission. And then secondly, I'm sure y'all have already seen this, but yes, that database is called the Citywide Volunteer Engage PGH page. And I'm happy to just resend this out in an email because there have been a lot of wonderful candidates who are applying who've expressed interest in the LGBTQ commission at large. So if we can just continue to have folks apply to that database, that would be a great central location. But I'll resend it so you all have that easily.
Thanks, Morgan. Billy.
Yeah, I think so. The legislation just defines the size of our commission. I think it says not less than 11, and so there's not an upper limit. But although realistically, we already are kind of a large commission with the number that we have 16 right now, and we've had 17. We've advocated for expansion because of diversity issues. So I just wanted to add that in. Regarding the meeting itself, I think that what Sarah said was really an important message from the mayor in terms of his vision for the commission, that he saw us as really focusing on an advisory role because of the need to educate the various departments and the more than 3,000 employees of the city of Pittsburgh, and relying on us to do our part in the areas that we have expertise, including our own experiences on this planet, to assist employees of the city of Pittsburgh in their growth towards a more inclusive, welcoming city. I think that was the message. He seemed to warn us. Of course, there's train tracks outside of Pittsburgh Federation of Teachers. Here's the train. I think that, one other thing that happened during the meeting was important was that the connection with Morgan and the commitment to have a meeting. We're doing the doodle poll on Monday to have a meeting with us and Morgan within 3 weeks. That's what the mayor had said during the meeting, and also connecting Denise, our treasurer, to appropriate people in the city offices. So I hope that happens. And Denise, if you have trouble with that, I encourage you to ask Morgan for assistance, because they did commit to that, and so that we have better understanding of their picture on finances, which was described somewhat. I won't repeat it here. The other thing I wanted to say regarding our commissioners, because we did present, and I understand they presented a process, and there's wide interest for being commissioners or board members in the city, and people are interested in that and applying through that process that has been noted. But I still have a concern for our commission, because we are new, and because of the obstacles to us starting and fully being effective that have occurred as we have been a commission born in the pandemic. We haven't met yet as a full commission publicly in person. That's a problem. But I mean, we're LGBTQIA plus. There's a lot of letters associated with us, and I was not totally warm to the idea that making sure neighborhoods are represented, although I do understand the East End tilt that people are worried about in this city. But I'm not as concerned about neighborhoods as I am concerned about LGBTQIA. And I hope that that the mayor's office understands that, because if you look at our history, it's really important, even though the alphabet does, have its limits, but it's really important that we have all those letters. And we've already talked about that. And I don't think that should be minimized by geography. I won't say anything more about it. The last thing I want to say is that the mayor did mention, sorry for going on so long, but this last one's really important to me because I didn't say it at the meeting. But Lenny Orovich described what he did, not to take credit, but to express what was done regarding the anti-trans radio ads. And without Lenny, it would have taken longer for WAMO. It would have been more difficult. There would not have been the quick reaction by Pittsburgh Public Schools. There wouldn't have been the quick reaction by the PFT without what Lenny did. And the mayor did point at me and say, oh, I know you had something to do with that, but I got to tell everybody here, and I'm glad this is live streamed. I'm glad Morgan's here and Maria. Without Lenny and what he did so fast, and he was so firm about it, and also things that Sue was doing too, but what he did really made the difference in making that happen, that the sports broadcast, the city championship game on WAMO, wasn't going to happen unless WAMO dropped those reprehensible, bigoted ads. And he deserves the credit for that. I wish I had said something more firmly at that meeting, so I'm saying it tonight.
I will carry that message. I will carry that message directly to the mayor when he returns from the U.S. Conference of Mayors and the next time I get a chance to meet with him, which will be on Monday.
I appreciate that.
And two, just a point I think to raise there in terms of the broader commission work. It is also our vision that members of our community aren't siloed to the LGBTQIA commission. We want our community represented on every board and commission that the city has to offer. So as those other appointments become available, and if you have someone who is a subject matter expert on zoning or development or everything else that the city touches, like think about those folks and nominate them and ask them if they would like to serve on one of the city boards and commissions. So our community has a say in everything that the city does.
Thanks, Maria. Sue.
Thank you. I wasn't at the meeting. I was sick unexpectedly for the weekend. So I just wanted to clarify. So is the mayor's office, is the administration just taking time to answer the question about reappointing the 3 terms that expire next month? Did they make a commitment about a time frame, or how long are we going to be waiting for that specific pretty vital piece of information? Does anyone know?
Yeah, they said they wouldn't commit to our request for the reappointments. They wouldn't commit to that now, that they have a process that they have to follow and they have to do that, but that we would know, and the commissioners would know, this commission would know, and the individuals would know about the reappointment prior to the deadline.
Like the day before, or was there any firm?
Prior.
I mean, it is coming up very quickly and we're planning a lot of things. If we're going to have a major disruption in our commission, we really need to know that sooner rather than later. And losing Lenny, Marcus, and
I think we made that point. I mean, so
we made the point. There was no committal back, and now what do we do?
I think this is a good point of conversation for you all to have with Morgan, who is assisting our broader work in terms of onboarding new commission members to various boards and commissions throughout the city.
So
The other thing I wanted to mention in this regard is, again, I wasn't there, but I do think it's important that we look at age representation. Public Source did a story, and Maria was interviewed in that story and profiled and about millennials serving on boards and commissions, BACs. And they made the mistake of saying that Maria was the only millennial on our commission. And I didn't think that was right. So I went through quickly and did the math, and I discovered that millennials are the most significantly represented. And then they corrected it, and they meant that Maria was the only one who was recently appointed. So they clarified the article, but the fact remains that we have a lot of millennials. We have 3 Gen Xers, and then we have a decent amount of baby boomers, and we have 1 person from the silent generation. And what we don't have are any Gen Z folks. And I think that that's something that we should advocate for, that we have someone under 25 who's, obviously a good fit for this, but that's a significant gap as in addition to some of the others.
If you have someone in mind that you would like to suggest, I would recommend that you reach out to them, let them know what we're looking for in that, and have them submit through our form, our volunteer form. We're trying to create systems and making sure that we all follow the systems in order to have that information and that data to rely on when we're staffing our boards and commissions. So that would be my recommendation is if you have someone in mind, or if you know somebody who is a member of the Gen Z, talk to them about their interest in serving on this commission, and then send them the link to submit their information.
Now, Maria, I forwarded to you one of the emails I had referenced last month, that we were just sort of randomly getting these emails in our official email address that seemed to be coming from like a form.
I'm trying to track down where that is coming from, because I'm unfamiliar where that is coming from. So once I get more information there, I'll get back with you on that, Sue.
So that's not what you're describing here.
No, that's not what I'm describing. Yeah.
Great, then I don't have to worry about that.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, I'll get back with you once I track down where that is coming
Oh,
from.
wow.
May I just jump in briefly on a broader view of boards, authorities, and commissions and how they are appointed? The tradition has always been that when seats expire, they serve until another appointment is made. And so I would, not to speak for the mayor, but I would expect that the 3 seats that the commission is concerned about would continue to serve until there were other decisions made as to whether to reappoint or to find new members to appoint. But also please keep in mind that the appointments are made by the mayor, but the approval comes through council. So the mayor appoints, but council confirms. And so there's always an avenue for further discussion if there are reservations you might have or other points of view that you might have that you wish to express. There is the built-in relief, if you will, that council must confirm those appointments.
Denise.
Yeah, I just wanted to, since Billy brought it up, I just wanted to verify that, Morgan did introduce me via email to Patrick, and, she was very responsive for the request. So I appreciate that, Morgan. And it's on my plate to try to find a time that works for him. So I just wanted to, since you brought it up, Billy, I wanted to just clarify that. So I appreciate it, Morgan.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Denise. Well, I'm being mindful of time here and want to make sure that there aren't any other key points from that meeting. But I think overall, we left that meeting with some hope in working with Morgan around how much more productive that we will be as a group, and are looking forward to continuing that conversation with the mayor. Maria, I think you noted that you'll resend out the engage form, or maybe Morgan will send that out to us, but we'll get that from someone. And so if we do have folks, we can make sure that we're connecting with that and keeping our progress moving. Any other final key considerations that folks wanted to share who were there? Okay, so just really quickly, we wanted to spend some time during this meeting as a quick refresher. Billy, are you able to pull up our commission goals quickly, those goals that we established for folks to see? So we really wanted to just take a moment in the co-chairs report out to remind the group of what we established as our working goals to help us get reconnected to those things. So now that we're picking up momentum, now that we've had our opportunity to connect with the mayor and senior staff, and now that we have the opportunity to work with Morgan, we wanted to come back to what it is that we decided as a group to work on in terms of our core goals and strategies. Part of the human service working group will connect to some of our goals in some ways. And as Billy pulls that out, we have those core goals for our commission. And so we want to focus on outreach, we want to focus on community services, and we want to be focusing on community development. And so we'll make sure that this document gets shared out through the commission. We're not going to go through it in full tonight, especially because we still have a bit of our agenda to get through. But these are the areas that we all worked on together to commit to working towards for our commission. So as you think of ways that your passions, interests, skills connect to these goals, I think now's a really great time for us to revisit all of this and figure out how we can show up, how we can advise, and how we can work with Morgan. So timing is good. We'll make sure that those get out to everybody again, and then we'll look for Morgan's doodle poll to continue the conversation and keep things rolling. Thanks, Billy, for pulling that up. So the final thing, I'm going to ask Sue to jump in here again. We have a meeting with the Pirates. They finally got a response late this afternoon, so I'll let Sue jump in quickly here.
Yeah, we weren't counting on having this conversation. As you all remember, when we met with the Pirates in the summer, they had expressed interest in some ongoing meetings to communicate about LGBTQ issues. I'm trying to be brief here. Anyway, and we had agreed to that as a commission formally, and we've been trying to work out dates. So now they have proposed that we the week of Tuesday, February 21st, like a 4 to 5 time slot. Lenny, is that going to work for you, 4 to 5?
What's the date again, Sue? I'm sorry.
Well, they said the week of the 21st, February 21st. So we can pick a specific date via another doodle poll, but I wanted to check with you because I know you were a key part of that.
Probably, yeah. I should be able to make that work.
Okay. So we'll send out a confirmation. The meeting is open to any commissioner that wants to attend. It's not a special designated group. Right now, we'll work out an agenda, and I think it's great. It's great that we'll continue this work and see what happens. So any feedback on that or comments? I'll make sure to include everybody in the invite, but.
So you said you are going to create a doodle poll for that week?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm hesitant because I don't want to have too many doodle polls, but I do want to be fair, and I know not everyone is here tonight, so.
Well, thank you, Sue. Everyone stay tuned for doodle polls. We'll see Morgan's first, and then we'll follow that up with the Pirates. So keep an eye on your email and let us know when you're available and get involved as you can. Okay, so next up, I want to give Billy an opportunity to give the secretary's report.
No report.
Thanks, Billy.
Okay.
And then the treasurer's report. Denise. Oh, you're muted, Denise. Sorry.
So I'm going to reach out to Patrick and schedule a time to either via Zoom or in person to kind of understand the budget and the requirements and everything that's around budget for 2023. So I will reach out to him and schedule a time.
Thanks, Denise. And you can keep going if you'd like with the outreach coordinator's report to give us the update on attendance.
Sure.
Can you tell me Patrick's last name? I'm forgetting it right now.
Do
you know?
It is
Cornell.
Cornell?
Yes.
As far as outreach report, one thing I did want to highlight that we are starting to see some traction on social. We have almost 300 unique follow visitors, about 500 impressions. So we're starting to gain some momentum. So I think that's positive. Regarding the commissioner attendance and participation at community meetings and events, I'm happy to put together a calendar for that and send out reminders of events. I just will need some help if somebody hears of an event, if they could send that to me and I can kind of push that out. So I'm happy to do that as long as I'm not aware of all the events.
Thanks, Denise.
Mm-hmm.
So as folks have events, please send them to Denise. We can make sure we start to get those listed and share a little bit more about our presence. And Denise, I'll also follow up with you and make sure you have those core community events that are sort of standing, recurring annual events. I'm sure others can contribute to that as well, but that'll be at least a starting point. And we have a tool that I can share with you that does that year over year.
Oh, Okay, great, thank you.
Next, oh, go ahead.
Just wanted to add, Denise, we're finalizing the list of events that happen within the Latino community. So once that's completed, we'll share it with you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Guillermo. Next up is reports of special committees. So in addition to the meeting coming up, we also have a working group on the city council relationship. Sue, anything to add?
I sent out a request to see who was interested. I had some responses. If anybody else would like to work on that. I thought that it would be best to maybe start meeting after the post agenda, but that's not set in stone. I'm going to just reach out to everyone who responded and see what we can come up with. And we'll continuously report back to make sure that you have a chance to have input in what we're doing.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions about that?
If you want to keep going for our transition into unfinished business, we wanted to start with a conversation on the state of the media and the impact on our LGBTQIA plus communities, and start to have that conversation.
As many of you know, the Pittsburgh News Guild is on, and along with other Post Gazette unions, are on strike. And they have asked for statements of support, to sign a pledge that we would essentially not speak with the Post Gazette. And as a commission, this does not apply to you personally, although you can personally make that commitment. Mayor Gainey has made the commitment. Maria has made the commitment. You know, I have done that for my blog. Other organizations have done that. This is, if you're familiar with the Post Gazette strike and what's happening, I don't want to rehash all that. I will say it's a very serious situation. The company that owns the Post Gazette just bought the city paper. So now they control the two media outlets in our community. And the city paper is certainly, you know, kind of been the queer outlet for several years now. And I do think that I think we should stand with the members of the unions and not speak to the Post Gazette as a commission. And that's what I'm moving tonight, that we will, I guess I should show you the pledge. I got to find it. But discuss while I go do that, and then.
Well, why don't we just put this in the form of a motion, Sue, that the commission agrees to sign on to the pledge, and then we'll add the pledge. Is that sufficient, Sue? Are you able to? Well, I'll make the motion then, while Sue's doing that, that the LGBTQI plus commission signs on to the pledge, that we don't speak with we don't have interactions with the Post Gazette, and however that needs to be edited to meld into the pledge.
Second.
Thanks, Lenny.
Do you want me to read it to you real quick?
Yeah, it's open for discussion now. Yeah.
Okay, so to help us, the undersigned organizations, politicians, community leaders, and members of the public are pledging to refuse to speak to the Post Gazette until our strike demands are met. Speak with the striking worker run Pittsburgh Union Progress instead. That's a strike paper. Ask the community to join them in canceling Post Gazette subscriptions until our demands are met, and urge folks to subscribe to the Union Progress. Now, what that means, where did my thing go? Here it is. I'm not really good with this. What that means is essentially, you know, we don't have a subscription as a commission, so that's not something we have to worry about. The there is a strike paper, the Pittsburgh Union Progress, that we could speak with. And the Pittsburgh Union Progress has a subscription, which is a email subscription. So they would ask us to subscribe to that to add to, support. So we could subscribe our main email to that. And then if individual commissioners wanted to subscribe, there's some good stuff in there. But again, this doesn't apply to you personally. And if you would like to join it, that would be great. And if your employer, may require that you still talk to the Post-Gazette, like we're not trying to interfere in any of that sort of piece. But I'm in addition to this, WESA and WYEP are unionizing and or have voted to unionize, and we're seeing a lot of change in how labor works in Pittsburgh, like with the Starbucks unionizing efforts, the Carnegie Library, Persad. I mean, it's kind of a new era, and I think we have to be flexible to support workers in what I'm hearing from the journalists covering the Starbucks unions is that there's a lot of LGBTQ folks involved there in particular, and that they are finding the kind of solidarity from their colleagues under this work that they don't have in their families and friends, and respect for their identity. I think Maria probably knows a lot more about this than I do, and I don't want to ask her to, I know historically Maria was involved in labor, so this is going to be something that we have to keep.
Hey, Sue, I apologize. I'm just going to jump in briefly. I have to be at a community meeting in about 20 minutes, so I'm going to be signing off. I didn't want to just leave without saying that. Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, I think there's a variety of folks here who have a history of union organizing. Looking at the individual who is currently sitting near the train tracks at the PFT. But yes, obviously the administration is deeply committed to the rights of workers and their ability to bargain and form their unions. WESA and WYEP have both successfully voted for their union, so they did win their union, and they're in the process of bargaining their first contract. So I'm sure there will be opportunities there to support. And I recently had an editorial meeting with the folks behind the Pittsburgh Union Progress to talk to them about how we could work as an administration with them to ensure that they have access to the interviews and the exclusives that would normally go to Post-Gazette reporters in this process. And they're very eager to tell the stories of what is happening in Pittsburgh. And I think they would be very eager to know or work with the members of the commission to do stories around the work of this commission and what is happening in the LGBTQIA plus community. So I think that is an opportunity there to build some really good relationship with local reporters.
Thanks, Maria.
And as a note, Pittsburgh City Council also voted to not approve subscriptions for the Post-Gazette for the city of Pittsburgh. So we're also not just myself and Mayor Gainey and other members of city government taking the pledge. We've also taken the step officially as the city of Pittsburgh to not subscribe to the Post-Gazette.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments?
I want to just add real quick, Steve Mellon from the Post-Gazette went to the 20th anniversary of Outrageous Bingo in December, and he did a really nice piece on, and I'll be happy to send that around. But he told me after the fact that it's the first time he ever received a round of applause, because he mentioned that he was there representing the guild, and that 500 queer people gave him this, like, I don't know if it was a standing ovation, but it really struck him. And he's a very, very experienced, he's not, he's been around a long time. So I think that says a lot about our community's esteem for labor and workers. And I'm really proud of them for giving him that boost.
Anyone else? So we have the motion to adopt the pledge. Hearing no further discussion, all in favor of supporting the pledge?
Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed?
I'm giving my first aye. I would just like to put that on record. Aye.
Maria. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, we have signed on to the pledge.
Sue, can you email that to me?
I will. I do think we should also issue a statement of support around that. But I'll work with Morgan and Maria and Billy and whoever to.
And much like Councilman Kraus, I do have to jump to get to something else, but thank you all for tonight and look forward to continuing working with you all.
Thanks, Maria. Next up in unfinished business is commissioner terms. I know this is something that we've talked about a couple of other times tonight, so I just want to check in. Billy, I know this is something that you've been talking about. I want to make sure we're not missing anything in terms of unfinished business or further discussion.
Yeah, I'm not, yeah, Bruce is 68, I'm 64, so I'm having a Bruce moment. I'm not remembering why we have it as unfinished business. Because we did discuss this. This is the issue that we've already discussed. So I don't know that we need more discussion on it now. We've made our communication to the mayor.
Absolutely. All right, well.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Just real quick. Does everyone know when their own term expires?
No, I don't.
I don't either.
I'll email
Good idea.
everybody. I'll email a list with the terms. I mean, other than the 3 that we've already named, we go until, for another year. And then, but Shantae is offset because she was appointed later. And so she has a 3-year term that starts later and ends later. But the commissioners, other than Jam, Marcus and Lenny, who have a February 28th, ours is a year later. But I'll send out the list with the terms on it.
Thanks, Billy. Okay, so finally, new business. So we want to, I think we've noted a couple of times in this meeting, we've started this conversation before, but we want to begin to have the conversation to figure out when we move to begin having in-person meetings. I think the only other thing that I want to contribute to this conversation is I think we note that it's easy to meet and connect via Zoom and get things moving. I think we've reiterated a bunch of points this evening about how many opportunities there are for us to get involved in the work and to commit to the work. And so there's a lot for us to be doing. I think when we look to in-person meetings, one of the hopes that I have for us moving in that direction is just to be more connected to one another. It's easy to just show up and be present in this space of Zoom and be virtual, and that's convenient in many ways. But I hope that as we move and transition to in-person at some point, as we decide works for everyone, that we're able to really pick up some momentum and build on some progress that we've already had. So that's what I'll say for now. I want to invite my other co-chairs to hop in on the when to begin in-person meetings, and anybody else who has some strong feelings about that as well.
Yeah, I think you put it well, Sarah. I think the only thing I'm just thinking through from the IMP perspective of getting them scheduled and just making sure that we have the tech is choosing a date that gives us enough time in advance for that. So, given it's almost February, maybe thinking of like a 2 to 3 month lead time, just so people can prepare and we can get, if we don't want to necessarily host it at the city, get all the tech capacity issues sorted. Yeah, I think it will be exciting. I think it was nice to see everyone in the mayor's office and meet together. It was nice to kind of have that kind of connection. So, yeah.
Thanks, Marcus. And I agree. I think that, obviously at this point, it feels like February is probably not realistic to jump to our next meeting being in person, but I do think setting a specific month target, and I agree with your assessment around the 2 or 3 months notice, and by early spring that we're able to either set our March or April meeting perhaps as our first in-person meeting.
I'd like to jump in and say, this is kind of an illustration of the bind we're in, because Marcus has been coordinating all that, and he may or may not still be a commissioner in March. And I think it's a good example of why we need an answer, because I don't really want Marcus to leave the commission, but if he's going to, then we need someone else to take over this entire conversation, or it would just derail us again. And it's an important piece to consider.
Yeah, and Sue, I cannot co-sign more how important all of our commissioners are and how important it is for them to stay, and really appreciate all of Marcus's efforts. And the only thing I might add in addition is that one thing we want to keep making sure we're getting in the habit of is recognizing that we have Morgan to help us make sure all of those things are happening. So Morgan, I don't know if there's something that you have to contribute to this in terms of helping us get to in-person and making sure that we're complying with everything we need to do in terms of accessibility. But that is something that's been a little bit of a challenge. So just noting that here, feel free to jump in, and we can also continue this conversation once we set up some meetings with you.
Yes, I'm just honestly a sponge right now trying to absorb all of the hard work that y'all have been up to behind the scenes. And I literally just pinged Marcus to figure out, some of these moving parts that he's been up to get y'all rolling into in-person. But I mean, I was going to suggest the city county building, but it's not necessarily the most ADA compliant building. So we'll just have to do some good brainstorming around that, but trust and believe. I understand the complexity of trying to schedule in-person meetings, but I'm here for y'all.
Any other thoughts on in-person meetings?
Well, I think we should shoot for March, because I think we need to do it. We also need to consider the other aspects of our obligation for a public comment period and advertising where and when we meet well. So, I mean, there's some other things that we just have obligations, that some of which Bruce happened to say about city council meetings. Also, some of them apply to us, and we should make sure those are happening too. And I know that Guillermo has spoken up about his facility, and we had some warm ideas about maybe that being the first place that we meet. I don't know how he feels about that now, but I know there was a good feeling about that earlier.
Well, that offer is still open, so yes.
Thanks, Guillermo.
So Guillermo, we can connect to have IMP do that site visit. The only thing I was just wondering in terms of start time and everything for the group, that if we were to aim for that March, I guess one, do people feel comfortable with that March date? And then second, would, starting at that same time, will we need to potentially push back 30 minutes or anything like that, just to think through kind of those logistics?
That would be March 16th, just so people know. I think, the site visit and whatever the logistics are, people should speak up about their travel needs. And if pushing it to 6 o'clock helps people, I would support that.
Well, I think going to Guillermo's location and parking in his parking lot and going up an elevator is going to be a lot more fun than going downtown and trying to find parking and paying, $18 for parking if I have to, and walking. Yeah, I just personally think it would be a lot more, coming from the north side, it'd be a lot faster, even though downtown is closer for me.
So in terms of action items and next steps, I think we have a couple of things that we're talking about here and a couple of moving parts and pieces that we're not going to solve tonight. I think one thing we might be able to commit to is some agreement on perhaps March being the month that we try for in person, hopefully at Guillermo's building at PHDC, and then working with Marcus and Morgan and others in the IMP department to confirm that we can do it there, what our backup plan is. But I think for now, at least, we can at least commit as a group to perhaps coming together in March, if that sounds reasonable and okay for everyone.
Sounds great to me.
I'm seeing lots of heads shaking yes. Billy, is there anything we need to officially do here other than keep working behind the scenes?
I think the plan for, Marcus and Morgan to work on this and stay in touch with Guillermo about the facility is fine. I don't think we need to make a motion on it.
Very good.
If we feel we do, we can do it in February. We might have more information to make a motion at that point.
Exactly. Yep. So we also wanted to, while we're on this roll of meetings, we're looking at our regular meeting schedule for 2023. So far, we're looking at continuing the Thursday evening meeting rotation, but we did want to make sure that we were having a conversation and checking in, particularly related to attendance and quorum and hearing from folks to make sure that that time and date and monthly recurring meeting was still working for folks. It's getting late and I'm seeing mostly head shaking, so there may not be a lot to talk about here, and that's quite all right. But I'll shut up for a moment and see what other folks have to contribute.
I'd like to make a suggestion for the agenda for the following meeting. I know that we talk about working with the city of Pittsburgh, the different departments, and also at some point with communities, and attend community meetings and so on. I think one of the things that we should take in consideration is to have some kind of presentation that we know that we will use always for this type of presentations that we as commissioners have seen, and we know that the message that is being conveyed. So like, if for one reason I have to go and attend one of the meetings because another commissioner can, we always send the same message to the audience. We shouldn't be sending different messages according to what everybody thinks. I think it would be great to have something almost like a company where you have a company presentation, and so that we know that the information is being conveyed the way that we want it to be delivered in terms of educating, and then outline the different items that we want that presentation to be addressing, whether it's education, whether it's racial and what gender, or anything that we think we agree should be included. But I wanted to make sure that I make that suggestion. Maybe that's something that we can take in consideration.
Guillermo, just to clarify, are you talking about almost like a it almost sounds like you're talking like a slide presentation or like a stock something that perhaps is different from the brochure that we've created, but I just wanted to check in and clarify what you're asking for.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, the brochure where we have, I think it also, I'm more than anything else preparing for when we start interacting with whomever, that we all speaking about the same, and delivering the same kind of message, so that there's no different messages going on around. Because if we are going to be starting participating in communities and even in events, I think not everybody is going to be always attending, and I think we all should be participating, but everybody should be conveying the same kind of message.
Would it be helpful to perhaps condense some of our documents that we do have that have some of those messages in them as like a handy tip sheet? So for example, I'm taking our mission vision statement as well as our current working goals as a tool, something like that.
And that may be something that we can actually have in our in-person meeting where we all are interacting. And I feel like we're getting ready to go into market or something like that. And then so we just like I mean, I do, like I know, but we attend the meetings, but I feel like we're going into market, and I feel like we need to make sure that we all convey the same kind of message. Just a suggestion.
Thanks, Gabriel.
I want to just tidy up the agenda item, because I think we do need to officially do this. And that is I don't think we did it in the past, I don't remember, but because it is on the agenda, to make a motion that our regular commission meetings occur on the third Thursday of each month at 5:30 p.m. unless there's a need to adjust the time.
Thanks, Billy.
My concern is the fact that people who aren't here are the people who aren't coming to the meetings, and we really need to talk to them and determine if this is a barrier. Since we don't want to set ourselves up to constantly be struggling for quorum, if we can make the adjustment, for example, to just half an hour and resolve that, and also have more participation. So I think we really need to talk to everybody individually.
I think that we shouldn't do that, because one, we have an obligation to set the schedule annually and promote it. And we also, the people who weren't here tonight were Derek and Nikia and Richard, but everybody else was. And
Tay was not here.
and Shantae, she was working. You're right. Thank you. So there were three. I think there's evidence that this is a good time for a strong majority of the commissioners. But if people want to delay it till the next one to give people time to survey, then that's fine with me. So far, there hasn't been a second to my motion, so it could die of lack of second.
Second.
Well, now it's open for discussion anyway, so we're moving forward.
I won't repeat myself.
I am going to repeat myself because I think the people who are not showing up, we've been continuously struggling with how to address that. Yes, they know they're still not here, and the solutions we put in place didn't work. And and yet everyone says, well, we need to make sure that we're not excluding them, we're not losing their voices, we're not disproportionately impacting BIPOC members. And I agree with all that. So I think here's a good example of where we need to, we literally have to go talk to them and say, can you make this commitment? And if you cannot, what does that mean? Because I'm frustrated by continuously going back and having, we're going to have attendance violations very quickly. And I don't want to it's frustrating to me to have to spend so much time chasing after people to remind them to come to meetings that we already have reminded them to come to, but I want them to be here. And we don't know why they're not coming. And I do think that perhaps this is an issue where we should stop, take a breath, and explore that.
Billy, I have a question. What is our obligation in terms of setting a meeting date and time currently? So, thinking about how we include other voices, I also want to make sure we're thinking about what do we need to do between this month and next month in terms of posting and advertising, and thinking about can we, for example, one question would be, can we delay this until February if we wanted to, or do we have an obligation to commit to something now?
Well, I think that if I'm correct, and I'll double check it, that we have an obligation to set the annual calendar, but I believe that that's correct. I think would be fine to delay it until February. I don't think that we'll get sued. This is live streamed. We might be giving somebody an idea. But I'm saying that, but I'm willing to risk that to reach out to the members. I do think we have reached out to them. I don't think anyone has in all the efforts has said, I'm not there because of the 5:30 third Thursday meeting. I don't think anyone has said that. The co-chairs haven't reported that to us, that they've said that. There's been other things that have going on, mostly non-response. But if another month, I'm fine with delaying it another month if the effort's made.
I'd like to amend the motion to set the dates and revisit the time. Do you object to that, Billy?
If you set a time, I mean, what you're saying,
I mean, I am in
not
agreement
sure what
with
you're saying.
Billy. I am in agreement with Billy that we have attendance, you know, and I think how many times, as more the times that we have been able to have quorum than the times that we haven't. I think this process may delay everything. Maybe somebody else has to reach out with these people if they know them, talk to them, and just get a yes or no. Simple as that.
So I think a couple of things are occurring right now. So I'm being mindful of time, and it's 7:03. So we're a little bit past our meeting end time, and we do have a motion and a second on the table. And we've had some discussion. So I want to do a quick check-in and see if this is something we need to postpone, if there needs to be more significant discussion around this, or if we want to move to a vote on this evening as the motion stands.
Yep.
And there's also the question of a friendly amendment to your motion, Billy, as well.
Well, I don't understand it, so I won't call it friendly, but Sue can make a motion to amend. And if that gets a second, then that gets discussed, and then you vote on the amendment, and then you vote on the main motion. So, Sue, if you want to amend it, you have the freedom to do that.
I'll rescind the amendment and let us go to a vote if there's no other discussion.
Hearing no other discussion, the motion, as Billy put forward and Lenny seconded, was to continue the Thursday meetings at 5:30 through 2023. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Any abstentions?
So did you raise your hand as an opposition? Okay. thank
Yes.
So the motion does pass to continue the meetings. And so, you know, in terms of notification in February, and we will be looking at that meeting for, sorry, let me get my calendar date out quickly. The 16th of February, we are still planning on having that meeting virtually. So that will be, with any luck, our last virtual meeting, and we'll work behind the scenes to get that through. And then I'm gonna make a, am I able to do that? Oh, I'm way out of my league here tonight. But we're at 7:05, and I want to go ahead and make a motion to adjourn for all of us to try to stick to time, but I don't know if I can do that, Billy. So help me out.
Technically, since we're over time, we should have made a motion to extend at 7 o'clock. So unless someone does that, I think you're obligated to adjourn.
Well, good for us then. I appreciate all of you. I wish you all in the rest of your week, and we'll be in touch soon. Stay tuned to your emails. I'm just going to give a shout out. Sue has a lot of doodle polls and follow-ups that are coming. Morgan's got things coming, so pay attention and please follow up as quickly as possible. But thank you all so much for your time, and we'll talk to you soon.